Now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. In this hour, we're going to be speaking with Jordan Hofer about his book, Evolutionary Ufology. But don't forget, this hour of the show is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can jumpstart your intuition today. Go by Just Energy or go by justenergyradio.com. No. Go by appliedenergeticsinstitute.com and download your free 50-page Jumpstart Your Intuition guidebook. Free today. It's also brought to you by soulhealer.com. Let me tell you a little bit about Jordan and get him on the air. Jordan Hofer is a MUFON research specialist in anthropology and author. Though Jordan has never seen a UFO himself, he has many friends who have, and he believes the evidence for UFOs and the Greys compelling enough to accept their existence. Jordan Hofer taught human evolution at university for 7 years before the recession forced budget cuts in his department, and he was laid off due to lack of funds. In addition to being a ufologist, Jordan is also an evolutionist and strict classical Darwinist. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Jordan Hofer. Hey, Jordan, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you, Dr. Rita. How are you?
I am doing really good. So a professor in human evolution. So what shifted your focus into looking at UFOs and ET contact and ET evolution?
Well, aside from the recession, my best friend and his family saw a UFO, and then my daughter did, and then some other friends did, and then it just got ridiculous as to how many people I knew were actually having these experiences and seeing these things, and that's kind of what launched me.
So in the people that you knew that had experiences, did they have like missing time and all that good stuff?
Well, there was one fellow who has had some abduction-like experiences in the past. Whether or not that's actually going on with him and his family, we're not really sure. And, we haven't sought hypnotic regression or anything for that.
Mm-hmm. So in your book, you delve into aliens on Earth, and the focus is really on the Greys. Why did you really just kind of stick with just the Greys?
You mean as opposed to other alien species?
Uh-huh.
I have to say that in the research I've done, it's the Greys that keep popping up again and again. And especially when, abductions and especially abductions with some kind of medical and reproductive component, the Greys seem to pop up. And they also seem to have the very interesting psychological effect of actually kind of giving people the chills. People who have never even thought about aliens and stuff, and they'll see a picture in front of communion, and it'll give them this inexplicable chill that that some of us know a little too well.
So, you hear people talk about that kind of chill with like the Men in Black or the black-eyed children. Are we kind of talking about that same kind of heebie-jeebie kind of feeling?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure. My guess is when you have a heebie-jeebie feeling, like you put it, sometimes it's because it's something that has caused you harm for a long, long time. For example, both we and the chimpanzees have as almost a common fear, the fear of spiders and snakes. Well, it makes a lot of sense if you're living in the jungle. And that's kind of what I think the fear reaction to the gray face is. I think they've been around for a very long time, and this image is like an indelible stamp in our instincts, and our mind, and our dreams. And I think that's why it scares people so bad.
Okay, well then, see, your topic is a very interesting one to me because I've studied mythology. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid, so I read every single book on the theory of evolution, that they had, and as a kid, adult books. But anyway, but when you look at from a cultural perspective, there's more support for a reptilian presence, because of the snake worship and stuff like that? Or do you think that they were looking at the Greys and somehow paralleling them to what we would think of today as being a reptilian, or in mythology, the half man, half fish, half man, half snake kind of character?
Oh, that's really interesting. To be honest, I have not studied too much about the reptilians. They haven't come up much in my research, and so I can't really speak to that. The one thing that I've kind of gotten a feeling for is that they're kind of badder customers than the Greys. That the Greys may even do their bidding. Yeah, but I'm really not that well versed on that, Dr. Rita.
And that's okay. Because I was just reading something. Actually, it was a parallel thing about the snakes, and the fear of snakes, and that being tied to, I forget what it was, but it was, they were making the parallel more to the reptilians. But anyway, so based on what you have investigated regarding the Greys, what have you concluded about them? Or were you able to reach any conclusions about them as a species?
Yeah, I was able to make at least some tentative conclusions, maybe hypotheses. I don't know how far down the science road I went. I don't think I was able to go down too far. But as a species, I would consider them an apex galactic predator. So kind of like a thinking about the ecologies here on Earth, and you have your predators and your prey species and so forth and so on. And I think that the Greys are one of the big predator species out there. I think the reptilians are as well. And that there is this whole galactic ecology that we haven't even gotten a glimpse of yet.
Okay, so what do you mean by apex? I mean, maybe you explained it and it just eluded me. Apex galactic predator. That's a new term for me.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. The apex just means like the top of the food chain. So we are predators on this planet. Now, compared to the Greys in the galaxy, we're not so apex as they are.
Well, come on, we're barely even predators anymore. We're like, I say that we're a domesticated species. Yes, I agree with you 100%. I mean, seriously, if you look at, what domestication is, we are totally domesticated.
Yeah, absolutely. Shortened muzzles, high serotonin levels, and the lucky ones. No, you're absolutely correct. We are, you can definitely consider us a domesticated species. No doubt about it. I actually used to teach that, Dr. Rita, so right on.
There are so many people that are, in the, ancient alien community. I've used that word twice today, on air. That run around and say that humanity was a slave race. And I stop them and I go, well, I don't ever see any evidence of humanity being a slave race. I said, now, is humanity a domesticated race? Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah. So are you thinking that the Greys are the ones that have had a hand in domesticating us?
I think so. I think so. At least that's what I was kind of suggesting. Because, I mean, they've taken domestication to the ultimate level of, not only do they look, quite childlike with the large head to the smaller body proportions and that sort of thing, and the large eyes, but they, well, this is something different. In Ivan T. Anderson's book, Invisible Residents, I just want to, for a second, talk about their psychology. And he said that they were stupid and insane.
The Greys.
So what I'm thinking is that they have domesticated themselves to such a point, to this point, by probably cloning, that stupid and insane is probably quite apt of what they are.
I guess I'm not making the connection.
Okay, well, if you have a dog that is so domesticated, for example, that it doesn't even know that it needs to go outside to do its business, for example, it's been so domesticated that it's just a dumb shadow of the wolf that its ancestor used to be.
Hey, don't talk about my dog that way.
I love dogs. I'm not putting them down.
Oh no, but she totally is. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think we're both like that, and I think that we and the Greys, and I think that the Greys are trying to in some way recapitulate their own evolution, which did lead to this incredibly domesticated thing. Only I think in our case, what they're going to do with our domestication is a bit more, a bit darker than just being a pet.
Why do you think that they want us to be their pet?
No,
I don't think so either. I mean, I would think that there would be. I mean, that there would be more contact or more something going on than is now.
Yeah, well, I mean, frankly, you don't treat a pet by abducting it and running experiments on it. That's not a nice way to, get to know a dog. So what I think they're up to is number one, because they've gone kind of mad. I think that they enjoy our pain and our suffering. I think that their own emotions are not as developed as ours, and certainly not as kind.
So, what do you think of David Icke's work, where he talks about reptilians, but we'll just kind of skip that part. About them living in underground bases and basically sucking the energy off of us.
That's really interesting. Wow. I definitely agree about the underground bases. I mean, I think there's just too much planet that's honeycombed here not to use. I mean, the cave system on this planet is just immense. As for the second part, is this like an energy vampire, or I mean, what kind of thing are we talking about here? And what where do they do the reptilians take our energy?
Well, I mean, this is just, I mean, I haven't really studied David Icke's work, but basically what I have heard be said was that, they just they basically live off of our negative energy, negative emotional energy.
Well, there's plenty of that around the world, huh?
Yes, there is. But, I mean, and based on that, one of the things that I came out with in an article about the whole underground base thing was that, maybe they taught us agriculture and, how to live in cities because now we were in, these little self-made pens for them to more easily control us and manipulate us and suck energy from us.
Oh, that's really interesting. And that would explain, too, there's a very strange mystery about agriculture that I've never heard explained. And that is that agriculture sprang up independently all over the world at roughly the same time, within only about 3,000 years. And it wasn't by cultural diffusion. And that always bothered me when I was a teacher, when I was a student. How is it that this was the time when everybody chose, okay, yeah, sure, we're going to do this. So yeah, when you start talking about agriculture and aliens, I think there's definitely a possible connection there. I definitely made that in the book that I wrote, so yeah, I'm behind it.
Well, and I mean, but the same thing happens when you start talking about domesticated animals. Everybody decided, oh, we'll domesticate animals at the same time. And you'll appreciate this one. I mean, I don't know, weird stuff fascinates me. Like the whole agriculture thing fascinates me. I've done a couple of pieces on it. I want to do on domesticated animals. But did you know, here's a factoid for you, that within a 1,500-year period, around 4,500 BC, all of the animals of labor, the camel, the horse, and the llama, were all domesticated in 3 different areas.
Really? Those East, 3 all at the same time?
All at the same, within a 1,500-year period, and then that's it. Boom. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Can you get more coincidental than that?
Right.
I mean, especially when you're starting to throw in South America. I mean, when you throw South America into stuff or Australia into stuff, that just says, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Continuously, in fact. And to which the archaeologists, at least the ones that I knew, they just say, just go with what we used to say. That's what they used to tell. Like, it's when we're the first Americans actually here in the Americas, and he says, just say 13,000 years. Well, okay. Now there's evidence of much older than that, but they still say 13,000 years.
So I have a question. So you do the stuff for MUFON. You're you did this thing about gray evolution. But how do you still consider yourself a Darwinian evolution guy? I mean, how could you stay with that? How can you jump over to the dark side and look at the alien connection in human evolution?
Well, I mean, for one thing, Darwin didn't write a book in which it said, thou shalt not use this in an attempt to better understand some other form of life. I mean, that's what's so incredible about Origin of Species and its breadth and simplicity, is that you can apply it to so many things, basically anything that's alive. And I think that if you're going to understand any kind of critter, even kind of I don't know if you want to call the Greys a crypto critter, but they kind of are, you've got to understand their evolution. I mean, without any understanding of our human evolution, we would have absolutely no idea how we got here. And that would be just an insane gap of knowledge. Now, I'm not saying that I've written what actually happened to the Greys as they evolved, but I did give it a shot. I did try to give one vision of one possible course of evolution for them.
Sorry, somebody was asking a question in the chat room. I'm not understanding it, so I'm trying to get some clarification.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then I have to, and then of course I had to make a joke. And now people are making comments on my joke in the chat room, but the person's not answering the question. Okay.
Hey, tell them to chill. I'm having a good time.
Well, no, I mean, because, all right, I'll read the question, so it's just not. So Sonic Glitch 16 asked, do you think that aliens ate the other races before us? So that was the question, and so my question was, the Greys ate the other alien races? And then I had to put, and did they taste like chicken? But
see in my book, I don't even have the Greys as having mouths.
Huh? I mean, do you think that the Greys are predators enough that they've gone from planet to planet?
Yes. I think that every once in a while Professor Stephen Hawking will come out and make these pronouncements, and everyone's like, the smartest man in the world has spoken, let us listen. What did he say? He said something about... Anyway. What Stephen Hawking said about staying silent in a galaxy where there might be larger predator species, I think he was dead right on. I think that is exactly how we should be looking at it. I'm sure that somewhere out there's also some form of federation of weaker and meeker species that probably, band together to try to hold back these greater predators. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm convinced of at this point, is that, like I said, that there is this larger ecology out there, and we've only just begun to get a peek. I think we have been claimed as territory by the Greys, and I don't know if the reptilians are fighting over us too, or what's going on, but...
Yeah, I don't know. There's so much conflicting information that it's put out there, and you just don't know where it even comes from.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the huge problem of the 21st century and the internet. That is one of the huge problems.
Okay. So, Sonic, I love when they ask these questions. Do you believe God is an alien and Jesus was a hybrid? Hey, I'm just reporting it. No. Well, do I believe that? That's the question. So I'm just giving
what the hell? Why not? I believe that tonight. I can do that. That's a good answer.
You only throw mean things at stupid people, and you're not a stupid people, so what was I going to ask? So one of the things in your book, okay, so I have a little teeny bone I want to pick with you in your book.
Please do.
Because you went into this whole thing about Planet Serpo, and what was that all about? I mean, do you believe that that's where the Greys came from? And, is there evidence to support that they came from Serpo?
No. As a matter of fact, I was going to take that out. I was just going to take it out. I put Serpo in just as a placeholder. I have no evidence that they actually come from this place called Serpo, and with all the mythos behind that I myself do not believe. So in my book, I do talk about Serpo and so forth, but it shouldn't be taken literally. I'm not saying that is literally their home planet. I'm just using a placeholder. It sounded a lot better than Mars. That's really it.
Okay. Well, I mean, because we had someone on talking about Planet Serpo, and the whole interview was not very well received. I mean, it wasn't not by me, but just by people in general. And then I joke about the Zeta Reticulans personally. So I was just like, oh, man. I mean, because this has been my observation when you start talking about, these extraterrestrial races, is that this person channels this and this person channels that. And, and this is my line and I'm sticking to it. It's like, and so who are they channeling? Fred the janitor from Zeta Reticuli. I mean, we don't know. Are they getting somebody good or are they getting the janitor? How can you trust it? Especially if they're not coming up with the same things over and over again. There's no consistency to it.
Right. And, that's another thing that I really want to mention is that I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. That was never the point of the book. It's a thought experiment. And like I said, I do use placeholders like Serpo, even though I don't really think it was. There are little things in there that are, I'm sure people could. I'm sure there are a lot of bones to pick, and that's okay. That's okay. Because I think also there's an important thing in ufology that sometimes gets forgotten, and that's it. This is a lot of fun. I mean, I really have fun with this, and that doesn't mean that I take it lightly. I know people who've been abducted, and they tell me these. Well, they've been published, and they tell me these horrible things about, being raped and so forth. And, I know there's nothing fun in that. But I'm just talking about, if you have to do something, if you have to spend your time in some way and try to make a scribble, even just a scribble, it's interesting to be part of the ufology community. It's also one of the most open communities I've ever been. I've ever had the pleasure of being part of.
Cool.
Because it's not like that at university,
No. So do you think coming out with this book will hinder your ability to get another university gig, or are you just not even going there?
Yeah, the university gigs are up. I only have a master's, and they're going after PhDs only at this point. So, yeah, that gig is up. The only way in which it's really hurt me at all is in that way is that I have a mentor from my graduate school days, and she's just a very serious scientific woman, and if she knew what I was doing right now, to be honest, I would be a little bit afraid of her opinion of me. It's not like I have such a huge ego to bruise. It's just that here's this person who taught me so much about, in this other case, human evolution. And if she knew what I was doing now, she wouldn't understand. I mean, I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing now. But there are people in my life who just would not understand it. They just wouldn't get it. They lost my marbles or something.
Well, after you do it long enough, then they just get used to you. Good. I mean, I've been in this field, for a long time, and, whatever area, like this weekend, I'm doing a presentation about genetic manipulation in antiquity, getting into the whole agriculture thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And talking about evolution and genetic manipulation of the human species through time. So
that's fantastic.
come to my presentation.
I wish I could.
So, but one of the things, I mean, you had some really interesting points in your book that would maybe really made me think. And one of them was just talking about, taking the Greys as we know them now and kind of taking them back through, what you think was their evolutionary history. And I was wondering if you could kind of share that with the listeners, kind of based on what we have now, where you think they came from.
Yeah, the path that I took with them was based on, at the time, a newly discovered species of Antarctic albino octopus. And this thing lives underneath the ice, and it's got extremely pale skin and huge black, dark eyes. So, I mean, it looks a lot like a gray. It's got the kind of the fluid motions of the limbs and limbs, tentacles, and so forth. They make it look very similar to a gray. So that's kind of what I started with. I started with the common ancestor of all the mollusks, all the mollusks on the Gray's home planet, and then I kind of played the evolution through to the, going from something that looks kind of like a slug to eventually something that looks like an octopus, and that's kind of where I ended the evolution with the Greys. That they were kind of like these really weird octopuses that had invaded the land, and then began to understand how to do all sorts of things, which to us seem like magic, but to them is just a part of their natural brain function, which would be to, like, for example, levitation and also phasing through walls.
Oh, that's it. Teleportation, phasing through walls. How come they haven't taught us that?
Well, they're I don't think they're very nice. I mean, I really don't.
You mean you've never met a gray alien that you didn't like? Sorry.
Well, okay, all right. Do you want to hear a funny story real quick?
Sure.
Okay, we've got up here in Oregon, we've got a UFO fest every year in May. About 25 miles. When Trent saw this UFO go over their farmhouse, and I took 2 pictures of it. And they're really famous UFO photos. If you want to check them out, just look up Trent UFOs. And they've never been debunked. Anyway, so every year we have this really cool festival, and this year we've got Stanton Freeman coming. Looking forward to that. But anyway, let's see, what were we talking about the first place? I'm sorry, no, I've gotten all lost.
You were telling me a funny story.
Oh yeah, funny story. Right. Okay, so I'm over at my friend's house, and I've got a kid, and he's got 2 kids, and this is the night before the UFO fest, and we're all having a sleepover, and so they say, okay, why don't you take this room here, and I was really happy that I got my own room. So, all right. So anyway, I fall asleep. And about 3:30 in the morning, I hear this very strange clicking noise. And I look up, and in the darkness, there are these 3 gray faces staring at me. And apparently, I don't remember the entire thing very clearly, but apparently I was just like scooting back on the bed, just saying, "No, God, stay away." Those are kids, they went and they bought some alien costumes on Amazon, and thought it would be really funny to do this to me at 3:30 in the morning. They actually considered for a moment, I'll give them this, they considered for a moment that maybe they'd give me a heart attack, but they decided to do it anyway. But anyway, what that taught me is that if that ever happens, I'm going to be really too scared to do anything.
So, okay, let me formulate a question here. So what do you think the Greys are doing here? I mean, okay, because you hear about abductions, but it doesn't sound like they're eating people, and, but you hear about the, taking genetic material or, about hybrid races and stuff. I mean, do you think all of that is true?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I think with what they're up to with all of that, I think the key kind of came from human mutilations, which are they're like cattle mutilations when they're on humans. And this was something that I learned from Butch Witkowski, who wrote the foreword in my book. And I think that in part they are here to do some ghastly things like human mutilations. I think one of the reasons that they've taken so many people, and Butch made an estimate of how many people go missing every single year, and are never found, and in which you can take things like kidnapping, obvious things, and you can just take them out. And it ends up being a fairly large number of people who just disappear. No explanation. So anyway, I made a calculation on that based on the earliest abduction that I know of, which was Betty and Barney Hill, and that's 1961. And if you extrapolate that out to now, that would be about 128 million people who have gone missing and never returned. Now, if this is something the Greys are doing, this doesn't really sound to me like some kind of genetics project. It's to me more like conscription. Using us as some kind of weapon in a battle that's beyond what we know about right now.
Okay, so Sonic Glitch has been on a roll and has posted like a gajillion questions, and I've missed a bunch of them, but there were a couple that have recently scrolled by that were good. So I'm gonna start with a variation of one. So when you look at mythology, and I'm modifying it here. When you look at mythology, it says that we were created in God's image. So do you think that humanity has a mix of alien blood, and would that alien blood be these Greys? Do you think that we're a hybrid race?
Well, I don't know. I'm just going to answer the part of that I think I can answer. If we do have alien genes within us, we haven't detected them yet. And I think really that's really all I can say to that. That's all I can say to that, and I'm sorry.
Okay. And then the other question was, which I've heard something about this, and so whether it's part of your book or part of your regular MUFON work, is about abductions being taken based on blood type. That there are some people that think, what is it, that people with like an Rh negative factor or Rh negative, that they have certain kind of a blood type, that there's a higher incidence of abductions. Do you think that that's a true statement?
It may very well be. And if it is, it's for something in an experiment that we don't understand. I've never heard anything put out to explain that.
Yeah, I've only ever heard speculation on it. I mean, do you know Tom Reed?
No.
I mean, he's from a multi-generational family.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that goes on with his family is I think they have all ORH negative blood. And that's where I heard about it, because he was saying that I don't know if there's a statistical piece of it, or they haven't really ever looked at it that deep, but that was a thought. So I thought maybe you know something about it.
Yeah, that it runs in family lines, and that could be one reason. That maybe it's just a correlation. I don't know.
So, hang on one second.
No problem.
Do you think that we would ever be able to become friends with the Greys? Or have any kind of relationship with them? I mean, they obviously, if they're the predominant race, they're really not a secret anymore.
Right. Yeah, I agree. At this point, I mean, they light up their ships. They have shown themselves to so many people. The people all over the world know their shape, their face. Yeah, you're right. They sure aren't hiding. Having a relationship with, I don't know. I mean, it just, aside from the Stockholm syndrome, perhaps, I don't know. I just don't. I don't think that they have emotions in the same way that we do. I think that that with them it was kind of like the logical that evolved, even though that logic was turned towards what I consider a form of madness, and this if there really is this kind of war going on between these different species. I mean, it seems quite a waste of time, but then again, they're into wasting time. I mean, how many times do they need to, take the same person and, do what they do? Why do they have to do that so many times? I don't see. I don't get that.
A study that they do medically. If there's somebody on some kind of an experimental medication, or somebody that's had, I have a friend who 20 years ago was one of the longest termed HIV survivors, and at that point in time, so we're talking 30 something years ago, he had survived for 12 years. And so he would go in every year, and they worked him up, for free, because he was an anomaly to the whole syndrome. And 20 years later, he's still up and alive and going. Still HIV positive. And so he is somebody that is routinely evaluated by the medical community. So I could see where they would pick certain people out and monitor them for changes or whatever, especially if they were, inserting DNA things, or I don't know what they would do. But
yeah, okay. No, really, that's good. I'll go with that. I like that. I wish I had written that. I really do.
Okay. Okay, I got people asking stuff that I don't even know what that is about. Okay. So, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like, well, I guess the first step would be that we would have to recognize, as a culture that, extraterrestrials exist
Yeah.
and that the Greys are here and that the Greys have an agenda, because it's even hard to sit there and fight against them or raise people's awareness or to come up with some kind of a countermeasure to, whatever they do to like knock people out and to control the environment so that they can get in and out and people have their missing time. But we can't even do anything to combat that because, society, quote unquote, doesn't even believe they exist.
Right. Right. No, it's to be an abductee must be one of the most horrifying and lonely existences I can think of. Have you heard of Karina Sables from Victoria, BC? She wrote The Collectors.
Mm-mm.
Oh, she's wonderful. She's a wonderful person. Great book. Absolutely horrifying. 100% believable. And I mean, when you see what they've done to her, and not just her, but to her daughters, generationally now, I cannot come up with any other conclusion but to say that they are just sick.
And these are all Greys.
These are Greys. These are all Greys, at least in Karina's cases, yes.
And so, does she have, is tied to that the whole saucer experience and that too? Or is there usually a sighting attached?
Yes,
to
yes, she did have a sighting. She did actually. Actually, her sightings continue. She wrote me not long ago telling me that she had seen that she'd been seeing UFOs lately. Both she and her daughter. So yeah, I would if you haven't read her, I would definitely look into that. And anybody who's listening in, you can get it on Amazon. I mean, she's just a fantastic person. Can't help but like her once you've read it. You really can't.
Well, and you do have to feel sorry for those people because, nobody really believes them, or there's always that piece of doubt.
Yeah, right, and I do. I actually, I really do. It's not just, I'm not just. I couple people to help me on my next book. A couple people who had some abduction experiences, and I was really very grateful to them for giving me that. And again, it's just like I wasn't able to tell them anything helpful to do other than go to see the doctor. If you actually think you have something inside of you that like you can see under the skin, have it removed. I mean, that's just a medical procedure. But yeah, when I showed actual human compassion, that was the interesting thing, is that then the emails stopped and the communication stopped. It was kind of strange. It was almost like I don't know. They expected me to have the answer for them, and I'm sorry that I didn't. But I was trying to figure it out. And it didn't seem, neither case seemed like, good Gray. Oh, it was all bad Gray.
Yeah, I guess I've never heard anybody talk about a good interaction with a Gray, and the only place you really ever see that is on, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
Kind, the movie, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, because I'm trying to think, I've interviewed Jim Sparks, and, his experiences started off bad, but I can't remember if his experiences were with Greys or if it was a combination of, I don't remember. It was 7 years ago, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, it seems that that it's definitely swung. I mean, I don't think that there's any room left for kind of this beneficent New Age gray. I think that kind of started going out in the 90s, and I think that the 21st century has just nailed the coffin on it. I mean, as far as the research I've done, now if there's an abductee out there that says, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, Mr. Hofer, okay, fine. I agree. I've never been abducted, and man, I hope I never am.
Yeah, me either. I don't think that would be a very fun experience to have ever. So we have about 2 minutes left. So let me ask you one more question, and then we'll kind of talk about your book and stuff. So where do we go from here? I mean, if this is what's going on, that these grays are here, where as a society do we go from here?
Well, that's the question. I mean, as a society, I don't think we do. As investigators and so forth, the folks who have been working on it, I think we need to work harder together. I think that there's a lot of, just kind of silly infighting that you see in any group of people. And I don't think that there's more of it in ufology than anywhere else. But I do think that we need to, as ufologists, work on this problem together, and also call in the other paranormal investigators too, because as far as from what I've studied at this point, it goes far beyond any kind of nuts and bolts. This is a very strange phenomenon that just it certainly is, just beyond that reach of science. Science has some good tools, but it doesn't have the right ones for this job. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Hear, hear. So if people want to get your book, Evolutionary Ufology, where's the best place to send them?
The best place to look for anything by me is on Amazon. I have my own Amazon page, just at Jordan Hofer, Hofer, and just go there, and all my books and future coming books and stuff, everything's on that page.
So what other books have you written? Okay, so see, I didn't even know that you had other books.
Yeah, I've got one. It's book one in a trilogy for young adults. It takes place near here, in a place called McMinnville that I talked about earlier. And it's kind of UFO, Harry Potter kind of thing. Kids like it. They seem to anyway. And I've got a book coming out that I'm writing right now, co-authoring with my friend David Barker, called Little Gray Bastards.
Sounds cool. Well, I know the music's going to be coming up, so I guess we need to go.
Okay.
So, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Rita.
All right, and I will talk to you later.
All right.
That's Jordan Hofer. His book is Evolutionary Ufology. Next week on the show, we have Daniel Unterbrink talking about Is Jesus of Nazareth a Literary Creation? The great Easter show. And in the second hour, we have Dennis Stone talking about mythology in Australia. And so until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita. Until next time, remember, it's all just energy.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network.